I'm going to forego the usual warning for this video, as well as being a bit more serious for this entry in the Extreme Movie Night. The reason being is that there is real inhumane things done during the creation of this movie. However, I believe it may have been on purpose. Although I do not believe excuses it in any way, I do believe they were trying to get a statement into the world through this piece of art, and I will always try to listen to the people's reason for making art. So that is why we are covering this movie. We will talk a little bit more about it in the intro and in the analysis, but know that this movie is riddled with real animal abuse, fictional essay, tons of blood and gore, vomit, and other things like that. So that is why I'm foregoing the usual warning for a real one. Make sure you are okay with that before we continue. This video will be heavily censored in the YouTube version as well. Let's get into the real intro now, though. Hello and welcome back to another Extreme Movie Night. Today we are covering one of the most famous disturbing movies of all time, and in fact, the very first piece of extreme literature that I ever consumed way back in 2018. When you hear of disturbing movies, you may think of Salo, a Serbian film, or The Human Centipede, but you will often hear the most famous one that we are covering today among those, that being Cannibal Holocaust, directed by Ruggero Deodato and written by Gianfranco Claresi, a film so controversial that I really debated covering this or not. However, I do believe the message is quite powerful and says a lot about all of us, and coming right off the Extreme Book Club last week of Lord of the Flies, the timing just seemed to fit for this one. This movie was famously so realistic back in the day in 1980 that the director was arrested and brought into court because the legal system thought that he actually killed the actors on set to get this footage. Of course, he didn't actually kill them and show the bodies in the big screen, it was fake, but a lot of people just thought he did that. However, that even isn't the biggest controversy. The animal cruelty in this film is quite bad, because it is real. They actually kill several animals very disgustingly in the film, and I will obviously not show that in either the censored or uncensored version of this video due to obvious reasons. But there is an underlying message as to why they did those things in the movie, and why they did it in real life to make the movie. It does not make it right even slightly, but it ended up feeding the message of the artwork even more by doing it. However, the director has expressed extreme remorse for doing such things after the fact. That doesn't make it okay, but it's something, I guess. But if you don't know how we do things on this channel, let me break it down for you. We start out with an intro, which you are listening to now, where we discuss the director/writers and a little bit about the film. Then we get into the summary, which is the main part of the video, where we do just that, summarize the film. And then finally we get into the analysis, where we analyze the messages or themes of the work, which this time I believe will be the most poignant part of the video. But before we do, thank you all so much for watching. I'm passionate about this film and its message. I don't condone it in any way, but know that there is a reason it is considered one of the most controversial, extreme, and powerful films of all time. But before I waffle on any longer, let us get into Cannibal Holocaust. The movie opens with a very nice guitar song and a flyover of what looks to be the Amazon rainforest. Then the title is superimposed as it flies over, Cannibal Holocaust. Then all of a sudden, it cuts to not the rainforest, and instead what looks to be New York. A man speaks in front of a camera saying, "Man is omnipotent. Nothing is impossible for him. What seemed to be impossible yesterday is history today. The moon, for example. Who even talks about it anymore? We are on the verge of conquering our galaxy already, and in the not too distant tomorrow, we will be talking about the conquest of our universe. Yet somehow, man seems to forget, on this very planet, there are still some peoples who are still in the Stone Age and practice cannibalism. Primitive tribes in hostile environments where the prevailing law is the survival of the fittest. And this green inferno is only a few flying hours from New York City. Was it because of this 4 young Americans went there to make a documentary about life in the jungle? Was it also to tell us that before conquering space, we should learn about the planet we live on? 4 young and fearless Americans, children of the space age, armed with documentary equipment. Alan Yates, a director famous for his documentaries on Vietnam and Africa. Faye Daniels, his girlfriend and script girl. And their 2 cameramen and inseparable friends, Jack Anders and Mark Tommaso. 4 youngsters who never came back. But let's take a look at the beginning of our incredible adventure. This is the news segment that many are watching on a TV in a window of an electronics store. The segment cuts to what he just said. The four American documentary makers, on the border of Peru, where they are about to board a plane to go into that green inferno that is the rainforest. The documentary crew laugh and joke around and all seem like great people, as they are interviewed before they go into the rainforest. Alan jokes that he doesn't want to get married to Faye, and Faye says, yeah, this is the last time he'll say that. Jack jokes, yeah, provided we get back in one piece. They continue the interview, and the interviewer says that this is the third expedition into the rainforest to see what they are trying to see. One in 59 and one in 67. Neither came back. The documentary crew says that for them, the difficult doesn't exist. Then they show off their guide, a man named Felipe. The interview shows them leave and say that that footage was shot months ago. No one knows if they are alive. That is what the rescue team, sponsored by New York University and the Pan American Broadcast System, hopes to find out in the coming weeks. It then cuts to a man in a suit thanking a man named Professor Monroe, our main character, saying that he is leading this expedition. He is an anthropologist and one very familiar with primitive cultures. However, this is his first trip into Amazonia. It then cuts to some of the so-called savages in the rainforest eating some human meat. Cannibals. Some soldiers walk up on them, a mustached one and a couple of others. These savages, as they are called, look around the trees for something over and over. They see a sloth, but do not see what they are looking for. All of a sudden, the soldiers move in and start shooting these savages, murdering these people over something. One of the soldiers gets hit by a dart and slides down a tree. The other soldiers go to see the hit soldier, and some of them follow the rest of these savages. They shoot all of them down like nothing. Back with the wounded soldier, the other soldiers try to cut the poison out, but they find that it is too late. They then find that one of the savages has a lighter, something that he should absolutely not have. These tribes have no contact with any humans. The hit soldier dies from the poison after. Mr. Mustache and another soldier talk about how things like a bullet are more humane than that poison that they hit the soldier with, and how an American is coming soon, and now they're going to have to deal with bringing the American into the jungle. How fun. As they discuss this, a plane flies overhead with Monroe in it, coming down into the green inferno. It's beautiful from above. Mr. Mustache and his other soldier wait as it touches down. Monroe gets out and into a small hut with the soldiers. He hands Mr. Mustache some stuff in an envelope, and then Mr. Mustache tells Monroe that you anthropologists are made of some special stuff. If hellholes like this didn't exist in the world, I'm sure you'd invent them. But he says, he'd give anything not to be here. He would be anywhere else right now if he had the choice. Mr. Mustache says he's happy to help Monroe, but he can't guarantee that he'll still be breathing when he returns. Monroe looks rightfully troubled by this, of course. Mr. Mustache gives him a necklace and says a savage was wearing this. Monroe examines it and sees the lighter tied to it. He says that this lighter belonged to Faye Daniels. Mr. Mustache beckons him along to come see something. His expedition team. His guide, Chaco, who Mr. Mustache says is the best guide there is, and another soldier. Monroe shakes his hand, and Chaco says if Monroe is taking all of that shit with them. And Monroe says, of course, it's all survival stuff like food, water, and some luxury stuff. But Chaco says he can't take it. The only thing you need in there is ammo and medicine. The more you carry, the more exhausted you are, and the faster you will die. He says that he doesn't know if they're going to find that documentary crew alive or not. But before they go, he wants to show Monroe something. He shows him the savage they captured, a Yakomo. He leads him to the tied-up savage, apparently of the Yakomo tribe. Chaco says that the Yakomo are gifted warriors, afraid of nothing. But there's another tribe in the rainforest, one called the Tree People, or the Yanomamo, a tribe that no white man has ever seen, and if they did, they are not alive to tell it. They find a mark on the Yakomo's body and says that although they seem to be eating human when they caught them, this man is not a cannibal. No Yakomo tribe is. The Tree People, however, they are. This was just some sort of ceremony that the Yakomo were doing that looked like they were eating human. A ceremony to chase off white man's spirits, whatever that meant. The expedition then take the Yakomo and tell him to guide them back to his tribe. And so the expedition begins. They begin their trek into the forest and see lots of animals. Several times, the Yakomo stumbles and Monroe tries to help him back up, but Chaco says, "Don't help the savage, he doesn't need your help. He'll last longer in this forest than any of us." They continue to walk, and they go up a river, to which some leeches get on one of the men. Monkeys chitter above as they keep going, and the Yokomo falls again, and Monroe once again kindly helps him up. Chaco notices this and gets mad at Monroe, saying, "The Yokomo has to know who's strong here. Do not help him up again." The soldier with them says that Chaco is right. The minute you turn your back, this Yokomo will slit your throat. They continue their walk until they find a turtle shell. Chaco says that this must have been the documentary crew that killed this turtle, because the Yokomo would have buried their remains respectfully. No tribe won't bury their remains. But Monroe says, well, that's a good thing. They're following the same trail as the documentary crew they're looking for then. Chaco then sees a leopard and he takes his gun out and shoots at it, but misses. Monroe wonders why he does this as Chaco chases it. But as he dives into some leaves to get a scent off, a shrill tone rings out and he sees a very relatively fresh skeleton. A human one. Chaco looks at it and Monroe then throws up after he sees it. Chaco says, "This is Felipe, the documentary's guide. He is dead, obviously." Chaco says he wonders what mistake Felipe made, because Felipe was an expert about this jungle. They then rest near some water, and there's a brutal scene of a soldier, actually killing a rodent for food. Not effects or any tricks in terms of the movie. This is a legitimate animal death on screen. It's brutal, and I will obviously not show it. After which, Chaco gives the Yokomo some cocaine, as well as snorts some of it himself. After this, a very brutal scene of another Yokomo tying another female Yokomo up, and then finding a gourd or some elongated object and, brutalizes her with it in the way you think he does. After which, he takes some bones and some mud, and does it with that too. Monroe says that he thinks this must be some sort of brutalistic punishment for adultery, and Chaco says, "Good eye, it is." But after he's done, they're going to make that Yokomo take them to his village. Let me just say that the scene is very brutal, perhaps one of the most brutal scenes of this nature I've seen in a movie. After it's over, the Yokomo kills the woman. Chaco says that, don't feel bad for him. The man had to do it. If he didn't, his tribe would have killed him instead. Chaco then shoots in the air and makes sure not to be seen as he watches the brutal Yokomo run back to his village. Chaco says he did this so that Yokomo wouldn't know how many people were in the expedition, and so they follow him. After which, the soldier that is with them strips down naked and holds his hand up near the captured Yokomo as a sign of peace, to show the tribe that they mean no harm. After a back and forth of the tribe shooting darts near the soldier, they then lead them to the village, mostly unharmed. They all walk into the Yokomo village and a bunch of people make noises at them. Monroe notices a film reel around one of the women's necklaces. Chaco tells him to ignore it for now. They'll get it back. One of the leaders of the tribe then makes strange motions as if he's in distress. He beckons towards a burnt hut and cries, though right now, this means nothing to us, but it will. He then shows them a man with a bullet in his leg, nearly dead. Chaco says that the chief is telling him that the documentary crew apparently shot this man. The soldier then shows them all a switchblade and gives it to them as an apology for what they have done. They are then accepted into the village once the Yokomo realize that they are not with the documentary crew, because apparently the documentary crew did something bad and scared the Yokomo very badly. They are then given a delicacy of the Yokomo tribe that not to eat, and it looks very gross, and Monroe struggles to keep it down. The next morning, a rainstorm starts. Monroe talks into his recorder and says that he thinks the documentary crew went into the center of the rainforest, where two cannibal tribes are. Too feared even by this Yokomo tribe. The two tribes are always at war with each other. The Yamamomo, the tree people, and the Shamatari, the swamp people. Both hate each other, and when they kill each other, they eat the remains. When Monroe replays the recorder, it says that the Yokomo blame Alan Yates for the calamity that befell them, whatever this calamity was. The young soldier in the expedition tells Monroe to turn off the recorder as he jumps into the rain. He says both tribes are hunting each other as they speak. They go into the woods and see some sort of battle between the two tribes. One of the tribes win, apparently the swamp people, and carries off the body of a tree person. They follow these people, who can be seen flaying and brutalizing the woman alive. Monroe winces at seeing this, but another tribe rushes them and another battle ensues. However, The expeditioners, from the tree line, fire on the swamp people, helping out the Yamamomos. The Yamamomos then allow the expeditioners to go with them with open arms to see an execution of a swamp person as a gift for their help. The Yamamomo gives them a watch as a gift as well, no doubt one of the documentary people's. They all make noise as they continue onwards. Monroe says he's going to offer a peaceful gesture to show the Yamamomos that they mean no harm to them. He strips down completely naked to show the tribe that he means no harm. As a result, a bunch of the women from the tribe come in the water and they splash around and play with Monroe. A nice moment of humanity in the film, showing that even though these cultures are wildly different, they can still be peaceful. Even Chaco chuckles and smiles at seeing that they are having fun. After which, the women rush back to the village, and all of them follow them back. And once they get there, the women start bowing down to something, and then they see it. A totem of all the bodies of the documentarians. All of them sewed together with camera equipment and clothes. All of the documentary group are dead. Monroe speaks into his recorder after saying that the Yamamomo tribe did not let them bury their dead. He wonders what supposed evil these documentarians could have done to deserve having their bodies treated like that. But he says they need to recover the footage they paid for with their lives. Chaco says that he doesn't understand and thinks they should just leave. But Monroe says that even though these people are savages, they too must have rules of conduct. They are still human. So Monroe takes out his recorder and plays a song through it, one that sounds like chanting or some sort of singing. The entire tribe is so amazed at this magic in their eyes that they all dance and think that Monroe is some sort of spiritual savior or something. As a result, they offer meat to Monroe, more than likely human meat. To get the footage back, Monroe must accept this offering and eat the human meat from the Yamamomos. He does so, and then goes back to New York, safe with the footage in tow. But that's only the halfway point of the movie. Let's continue. Back in New York now, Monroe does an interview and says that the leader of the tribe gave him the footage back because the tribe thought that he was some sort of spiritual leader that could undo a curse that was put on his tribe. And by showing that he captured a voice with his recorder, they thought that he was that spiritual leader. So they gave him the footage back to break the curse. He couldn't explain what a movie was to these people, so he just went along with it and accepted the movie reels. In a boardroom, a television or movie company tells Monroe that they want him to make a movie and direct or host this movie explaining what happened to the documentary people. This will be an unbelievable look at these tribes. He was there too, and he was a witness to the cannibals as well, so who else should host it? It would get a great amount of money and fame from it. Monroe says he might, but he wants to see the film they recovered first, just in case. The higher-ups in the film company say that of course he can, and they will all show him the footage they recovered. And then afterwards, they will release it to the world and let the world be the judge of what is right and wrong, and if the documentary crew did the right thing. But first, of course, they're going to watch it. Before they do, the film company shows Monroe a film that the documentary team shot a year ago, one before they went on this expedition. This film was called The Last Road to Hell, in Cambodia. In this film, it shows the atrocities of the soldiers there as well as Pol Pot's regime. In this documentary, it shows monstrous behavior from humans, killing children and animals, and how evil humanity really is really on display by this documentary. After which, the female board executive says that was quite a footage, right? Well, it was all fake. None of that was Pol Pot or any formal army. It was all faked by Alan. Alan paid a bunch of soldiers to dress up and make the films more sensational. Monroe is troubled by this. It's not a real documentary? So what was the point of it? The higher-ups then leave him alone, and the film guy says, "Alright, let's take a look at the footage you recovered." They then go over the 4 documentarians again. Faye, Alan, Mark, and Jack. Seemingly good people. Maybe prima donnas, they say, but real pros. The stuff they show always had the best ratings. They could play an audience very easily. The footage then plays of them getting in the plane and enjoying themselves going over the rainforest. Then, them hanging out at base camp right before they go on their trek, which includes them filming and showing a naked Faye, who seems very distraught by the fact that she is being filmed. The men are very piggish and annoying to Faye after this, making sexual remarks. After which both Monroe and the film restorer laugh at how they're kind of just a bunch of funny teens almost, it looks like. Good people. Monroe then interviews the families of the 4 dead documentarians, including a former co-worker of Alan's who says that he was a ruthless son of a bitch. Alan's dad says that he was a good boy, but he wants to know what happened to him. Faye's sister, a nun, says that Faye was always very extroverted and a very popular girl. She wanted to be famous. Jack's wife says that she hardly knew him. He was an idiot and he was always gone, but she hopes that she gets some money from his death at least. The idiot. Mark's dad calls him no good and a freeloader and a piece of shit. After which Monroe goes back to see the restored film yet again. They've only developed most of the film though, so they'll discuss what happens and then they'll watch the rest. But they then start watching it finally, and we get to see what happened. It starts with the documentary team walking through the woods. It's silent and sometimes they didn't record audio, but they seem to be having fun as they walk. A while in, the most disgusting scene of the movie in my opinion plays. Once again, real animal abuse, and it is the only movie to date on this channel that has made me take a break after this scene, other than Thanatomorphose, of course, but that was all effects in Thanatomorphose. This is real. They find a large tortoise, and they rip it apart. It's a real tortoise. They cut off its head and rip its shell off, showing the entire insides of the turtle as they cook and eat it. It's really, really gross, and very, very real. Faye cannot seem to stomach this scene, and in an extremely tasteless and evil move even from the actor, even if you are an actor, which the actor of Jack, Harry Pirkinen, takes the head of the turtle, the very real head of it, and pretends to lick it and makes stupid movements towards the poor animal. After which they eat it and throw the other parts away just on the ground. Hence why we saw the shell when Monroe was walking through the woods at the beginning. Afterwards, Felipe gets bitten by a snake. A venomous one, their guide. The crew attempts to save him by cutting off his leg and cauterizing the wound, but it doesn't work. He dies, and they just leave him under a pile of leaves. This is that first body that Monroe and his group found at the beginning. It's starting to look like these documentarians are not as good of people as we once thought. They laugh about Felipe's death and completely disrespected the tortoise they killed. After which they continue into the forest and find Faye, in which they film her pooping for some reason. They continue to mess around. They then go across a river and make a makeshift raft, where they see a caiman, to which they try to get out, but Alan says, "Forget about me, film the alligator!" Anything for content, I guess. They get out of the water and continue on, and they sneak up on some of the Akumo. They want to find the village, so they watch as they cut off a monkey's head. Once again, very real animal death on screen. They then figure out what they can do to find the village of these people, and that is to shoot one in the leg and follow him as he retreats to his village, terrified. After which the footage ends and the higher-up asks Monroe what he thinks, and Monroe, disgusted, said, "Well, it's not the best way of establishing peace with the natives." He now says that he understands why the Akumo greeted them with such hostility. To which the film restorer says, "You think that's bad? Alan did much, much worse." Let's keep watching. The next reel starts and they watch as they follow the wounded Akumo back to the village. The villagers seem to be slightly scared of them, but they just continue to film the tribe very invasively as they walk around. However, they just seem scared, but nothing is really happening. So, to get his story and his content, Alan does what he does best. Stages something, but in the cruelest way possible. He tells Mark to go to a child that is next to a pig petting it, and then he puts the shotgun up to the baby pig's face and blows it off. A real animal death once again. Alan then looks at the camera and says, "Violence like this is a daily thing in the jungle. It's the strong overcoming the weak." He says this with an extremely happy smile, as if he's enjoying getting all of these people riled up and violent. They shoot guns in the air and chase all of the tribe into a hut. And then Alan takes a torch and lights the hut on fire. He makes sure to film the reactions, staging it as a violent attack from another tribe, so he can film it. He then says, "This is a massacre from the tree people to the Akumo," as he films them all burning alive inside the hut. Some escape, but there are definite casualties from him burning the villagers alive. They dance around and Alan calls out, "It's beautiful!" as he massacres these people, just for his story and his documentary. After which the documentarians sit around and smile after they destroy these people's homes. And then the next shot is Alan making love to Faye and Jack filming the whole thing and laughing. Only then does the camera pan out, and not only do we see that he's just making love, he's doing it on the burnt remains of the village and the villagers. next to the homeless Yakumo just behind him, just watching them. These documentary people are not good. They are evil in the worst sense of the word. That reel ends and it cuts back to Monroe talking to the higher-ups, and she says, "It's exceptional. She didn't expect such authenticity." Monroe sarcastically says, "I'm not sure I'd call it authentic or exceptional." She questions him for this, saying that no one knows about the Yakumo in New York. The more sensational the story, the better. The more disgusted and overloaded a piece of media is, the happier and more attentive the audience is. Monroe says, "Ah yes, that's typical Western thought. Civilized, isn't it? They are primitive and they must be treated with respect. Did you ever think that to the Yakumo, we are the savages?" The higher-up says she never thought of it that way, actually. Monroe says, "Think of it like this. If someone came into your home and terrorized you, would you not be upset? Would you like people to make money off of your misery?" It then cuts back to the footage. The documentary crew finds a woman who left the tribe to die alone. And then they film her dying, trying to be alone in her final moments, and the documentary crew films her dying. Alan then talks to the camera, saying that they had a long discussion last night if they should keep going or go back. Alan says that a lot of them said that they shouldn't push their luck. But he said he convinced them all by saying, "Imagine the fame." It then cuts back to New York once again, and Monroe saying that this documentary is offensive, dishonest, and above all, inhuman. But the higher-ups say that this is the most sensational documentary in years. They have to finish this. Monroe says they can, but he won't be a part of it. This is disgusting. Monroe says he wants them to throw the film away. He said he's seen the rest of the material. Even the editors couldn't stand the rest of it, and he saw it. And what happened to the documentary team is awful. And he will show the higher-ups why they cannot make this film. They all then go into a room and finish all the footage. They all watch as Alan says that there are no sign of the Yanomomos. He says that he's wondering if the tree people are just a legend. They continue on and they see a Yanomomo stalking them. And then they grab her, and then they take turns brutally assaulting her, in the exact way you think. Even Alan does it, right in front of Faye, his girlfriend. Faye cannot stomach them doing this. This is finally too much for her. After they finish, they impale the female Yanomomo on a stake, the most famous image from the movie, which I can't show in the YouTube version. And they point the camera on it saying, "I can't believe the tribes would do this to each other. I can't understand the reason for such cruelty." But Alan has to stop himself from smiling as he says this. They film the mutilated body and the reel ends. The next one starts, and they walk in the forest and see a Yanomomo, but then realize that they're surrounded by Yanomomos. They shoot into the woods and cower behind trees as the Yanomomos close in. Jack tells them to keep rolling, we'll get an Oscar for this. They keep shooting, and Alan screams out, "Jack!" as the camera pans, and we see that Jack is hit by a spear. He tries to rush to his friend's aid, but Faye yells that he can't. They have to go. So Alan gets another idea. He'll put Jack out of his misery and say the Yanomomos did it. He lifts the gun and shoots his best friend in the head, killing him. Faye beats the tree in sadness and despair, and then it pans and we see Jack is dead. The Yanomomo go over and obliterate Jack's body, tearing it apart for food. Alan tells Mark to keep rolling. Mark says down to the last foot he's gonna, smiling almost. As the Yanomomos retreat, they shoot at them. We then see they take Jack's body and cut off all of his parts. It then shows the film executives finally cringing as they see this. The camera rolls the entire time he is dismembered. After which, they all run after being spotted. No ammo left either. Alan shoots a flare gun at the tribe to hold them off as they all run away. He yells at the tribe as he runs and shoots more flares at them. He sees as Faye gets taken away and Alan runs towards her, but Mark yells at him that they have to go, they have to get this film back home, it's more important than Faye. Alan cries out for his girlfriend as she is dismembered and assaulted. Even worse, they keep rolling as it happens, to get the shot so they can be famous. It's very visceral and real looking. After which, the tribe beats her to death. The two survivors then run, and we see the camera fly out of Mark's hands as they too are beaten to death. The entire documentary crew dead. The film then ends and the lights turn out and everyone is silent. The top executives get up and then just leave, disgusted. None of them can stomach what they just saw. The only executive left in the room gets on the phone and says, "I want this film burned. All of it." Monroe knowingly nods his head, knowing he was right. He gets up and leaves the building, ending the movie with the unbelievably good line saying, "I wonder who the real cannibals are," as he walks off into the distance. It's obvious what this movie means, as it is pretty plainly laid out. However, we are going to talk about it. The message of the movie is the whole point of the movie and why it was made and what they did to make it. Once again, I condemn it for the fact that it is completely hypocritical. However, that is also part of the main point of it. Humanity, and Western civilization in particular, is hypocritical. But even more than that, it is especially poignant nowadays. It may not be as extreme as the movie implies, but you'll see a lot of people online use sensationalism and purposely try to get hate watchers because any attention is good attention. You could say I'm even doing the same thing, and just like the movie itself, you could say that humanity is intrinsically hypocritical as a species itself. Not only am I hypocritical for reviewing it, think about it this way as well. Is the audience who views this movie, or even a review of it, any different either? The marketing of this movie was sensationalized as well, and the fact that the movie is so remembered is a testament to its message. It is proving the message right because of how remembered it is. Once again, I don't believe in killing animals and making art. It's disgusting and I condemn it. However, clearly, the message stood the test of time, and the fact that we all know this movie, and know the message, and watch it anyway, is exactly proving the point. The film is a mirror, and it makes us look at ourselves. Some people believe that the animal killing completely undermines the message that it is going for. But, as much as I hate to say it, it makes it stronger. I hate that it does, but it does. Humanity is hypocritical. Humanity is disgusting. In Western society, we tend to label people who are not in our society as savages, even if we are just as bad, or in this case, severely worse than those who we label as savages. I don't like this movie, but simply because it makes us all look at ourselves and throws our hypocritical thinking right back in our face as we do it, as we watch it. Of course, I don't like the animal killing. It's disrespectful and evil what they did. But at the same time, I'm a hypocrite. Because do I eat meat? Sure, I absolutely do. And I probably won't stop after I finish this review. And look what they do in factory farms. It is simply worse than what they show in this movie. And I, and millions of others, will turn a blind eye to that and eat meat anyway. But will find the making of this movie disgusting, which I do. So look at yourself. Humanity is hypocritical, no matter who you are. The ending line of the movie is that message laid out plainly. Who are the real cannibals? But thank you for watching. If you would like to be like these people on screen here, you can go over to my Patreon and become a super supporter, which of course is not necessary but appreciated. For next week, we are going to be doing, finally, another Splatterpunk book after like a month, in the Extreme Book Club video on The Black Farm. I hope to see you all then. Bye.